you got to see how we're doing the math for pricing these marketing packages for local businesses. Do you ever feel like if you were going to price something, this is how I used to do it in the beginning, maybe you've done something like this too, where you think to yourself, how long is it going to take? This is a 10-hour project. I want to make $100 an hour. I'll charge $1,000. But I don't want to do it like that, especially when I'm getting into like $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 projects. Those are long-term projects, and the margins are so thin with the hourly pricing and everything. And shouldn't the price have something to do with the value that the client gets out of it? And so check this out, because I want to focus on what the result is going to be for my client, like financially. What's their return on investment going to be? And then how can I charge a portion of that? And then do actual math based on what I know about the cost per click for the ads and the click-through rate, conversion rates and everything. Like, how can I bundle what I actually know into a price so that it just makes it obvious for me and for the client that we should move forward, even when you're charging $10,000, $15,000, $20,000. So check this out. I'm going to show you what the services are real quick. I got some slides to share with you. And then we'll actually dive into the math so you can see how I'm pricing this stuff out. And then you can price your projects like this too. And then your clients get better results and it works out really well for you financially. So let's jump in and take a look. All right, let's take a look at the pricing because it's math, not magic. Before we get into the actual math, let's take a look at the services that we're actually pricing so we know what we're all talking about. There are 3 areas for recurring revenue, and I'm always thinking about recurring revenue for this because I want to make sure that my clients are continually getting leads throughout the year. And those are going to come from 3 different sources or 3 different service areas. One is traffic. I want to make sure that we're getting people's attention. And then once we have the attention, how do we capture their contact information so we have leads? And once we have leads, how do we nurture those leads into clients? So I'm always thinking through traffic leads clients, because ultimately I want my clients to actually get more clients of their own so that they're actually getting a positive return on investment. And then my price will be a percentage of that return on investment. And so that's how all this stuff works. Those are the different service areas. Let's take a look at the different types of services you would use for each area. So traffic generally comes from 3 different sources. Social traffic is what I think of as traffic from your Google business profile, from Facebook, from Yelp. It's non-paid, so it's like organic traffic, but it's not from traditional content marketing like you would think of for SEO. And then, of course, we have paid traffic. We normally start with Google search ads, especially when we're working with local businesses. And then we have regular SEO, and a lot of people are calling it search everywhere traffic now, like search everywhere optimization, because it's not just Google that you're optimizing for. Now there's AI engines and all kinds of stuff. But all 3 of those traffic sources are going to require regular maintenance on a monthly basis. So let's take a little bit of a deeper dive into the leads. What I'm thinking about here is, how do I start with a traffic source? And then the traffic goes to a landing page. On the landing page, there's a lead magnet where somebody puts an email address in for something. Once I have that lead, then I have an email sequence that goes out, usually automated, almost always automated, where I'm nurturing the leads for 7 to 14 days. And those emails will then push people usually to a phone call. Like a lot of our clients are in health and wellness and fitness and home services, and those people generally want phone calls. So when you're doing all of that, then there's stuff that requires regular maintenance. For example, headlines. I want to test different headlines, A/B test. If I'm not getting the conversion rates that I want, I'll try a new one. There are different lead magnets, and I might need to try a couple of different types of lead magnets. So I'm creating new lead magnets, and I'm also optimizing the ones that I've already got. Like I might have something, and if I just change the name of it or change how it's described, then people understand what it is better and want it more, and the conversion rate goes up. Or it could be something like seasonal stuff. Like if you're working with any type of seasonal business like lawn care or something like that, then you would probably want to create different lead magnets for different seasons. And golly, fitness is a big one, you know? There's there's the New Year's resolution fitness, there's the getting ready for the beach fitness, you know, so you might want to change some lead magnets based on seasonal stuff. Then there's social proof. Like as clients start doing great work and you can share that information with people, you know, like before and after pictures and stuff, it's great to keep posting that because the more social proof you have, the higher the conversion rates go. And that's awesome. So then there is lead nurturing. So once we actually have the leads, how do we convert the leads into clients? We got stuff like email drip campaigns. We have social media strategies for lead nurturing, not just audience growth, but actually nurturing the audience into a call to action. So we're kind of using the social media in a similar way to the email drip campaigns. And we're educating, we're qualifying. This is really big in the health space. There's a lot of our clients will offer health services that are a little bit outside the mainstream of what your mainstream insurance might pay for. And it's really frustrating both for the doctors and for the patients to want to work together, but for whatever reason they can't because insurance is involved or whatever. So it's great if we can educate and qualify all of the leads to make sure they understand that that's going to be a self-pay thing and not insurance or whatever. Then there's social inspiration, which is a little bit different from social proof. Social inspiration would be more like encouraging people about the types of results that they can actually get, rather than just building up like a huge following or something like that. Like social proof tends to be, well, yeah, 13,000 people have subscribed to this channel or whatever. And that's kind of social proof, but social inspiration is more like case studies and stuff like that. So there's that. And then there's like selling the next step. And so sometimes the next step is a little bit too big of a step and we have to change what it is. So for example, if somebody lands on a website and the next step is call me to get started, a lot of times that's too big of a step. You're not really ready to call to get started yet. And if you were to call for like a free consultation, maybe that even feels like too much of a step too, because you're really just shopping around. You're trying to learn what your options are. Like maybe you're going to buy some custom cabinets or something like that, which we're about to talk about here in a second. And you're not sure you want to buy these custom cabinets, but you're interested in figuring out how to optimize the space in your kitchen and stuff like that. And so selling the next step is an interesting thing for optimizing conversion rates to make sure that each step in the process isn't too big of a step. And so that's some stuff that will require some ongoing maintenance. So what is all of this worth? The first thing we want to do is calculate the annual value per customer. And so we're going to take the example of custom cabinets, which I just mentioned a second ago. And that's going to be sort of our example client. In fact, I'm actually talking to someone today about doing this very thing. So this is kind of real world stuff that we're working with. And I want to know what the annual value of a customer is going to be. And so I'm looking at custom cabinets and I'm able to figure out that, first of all, there's a really wide range of what cabinets cost, but I put a really conservative price. Like it's probably higher than $10,000 to get custom cabinets for your kitchen, but it might be a smaller price if you're getting custom cabinets for a laundry room or a school room or something like that, where you might not need quite as many cabinets. So just to kind of average things out across the board, I just said, let's assume the average project cost is $10,000 for my friend that does custom cabinets. And I'm also going to assume a 25% profit margin. I did a little bit of online research. It seems like that's roughly about where things are in terms of like subtracting out the cost of goods, like doing the actual work and stuff. So if you were to sell something for $10,000, you might keep $2,500. So that's the average project profit is $2,500. So the next thing to do is to determine the capacity. And so I want to know how many projects per month can the business accept, because it's not infinity, right? Like it's maybe 4 projects per month at a profit margin of $2,500. And then that would be $10,000 per month in capacity in terms of like the money that my client's going to put in her bank account. And that's really helpful to know because you can buy too many ads and drive too many leads, and that really cranks up the cost of acquisition and lowers your return on investment, which is something that we don't want to do. We don't want to hit the ball too hard. So what is all of it worth? For home services in the United States, direct sale conversion rates range from about 3 to 15%. And more expensive projects or more expensive services tend to have lower conversion rates. Less expensive services have higher conversion rates. And so we're talking about custom cabinetry. And what I mean by direct sale conversion rates would be you run an ad to a landing page where the call to action is like, call me right now to buy something. And so I'm going to say with conversion rate targets and this particular type of custom cabinetry, our direct sales conversion rate is probably going to be about 5%. That's at least going to be my target. But then I'm going to have a lead magnet on the page too. So I'm not only hoping that people call, but I'm also going to have some kind of an ebook or cost calculator or what's your cabinet vibe quiz assessment or something like that. Something where you put your email address in and you're interested, you're learning, but you're not quite ready to call in yet. And I'm going to shoot for a 20% opt-in rate for the lead magnet. And then from the people who opt into the lead magnet, I'm thinking that maybe a quarter of those people, 25% of the people that are on the list, eventually end up calling. And so when you think about, well, what about traffic to calls? Like how much traffic do I need to get a certain number of calls? Well, 5% of the traffic will call right now because that's going to be the direct sales conversion rate. And another 5% of the traffic will call later. That's 25% of the 20% opt-in rate. And so now I'm thinking if I had 100 visitors, 20% of 100 would be 20 opt-ins, and 25% of those 20 opt-ins would be 5 calls. So that's kind of how I'm thinking about all of that. So basically what I'm saying here is 10% of the clicks will call. Like 5% of the clicks call now, 5% of the clicks call later. So what about calls to clients? I want to think about that conversion rate too. And if 20% of calls become paying clients, I'm feeling pretty good about that. It'll probably be a little bit higher. Like I would say, especially if the call goes into like the business owner, and in this case, it would be going to the business owner. A lot of times owners can get more like 30%, maybe even 35%. But I'm putting conservative numbers in just to make sure that we're not accidentally flinging our prices out of control or whatever. So I'm going to assume that 20% of calls become paying clients. So how much traffic do we actually need in order to generate the number of calls to get the number of clients that we want? Keeping in mind that our client's capacity is 4 projects per month. 20% of calls become clients. So how many calls do we need to get 4 clients? Well, here's the math, right? So this is where it gets a little complicated or whatever, but it's not too bad once you've done it a couple times. So 20% of X calls equals 4 clients. So that means how many calls do I need to get 4 clients? And if you do the math, you have 0.2x equals 4. X equals 4 divided by 0.2, which equals 20. And so the end result is 20 calls generates 4 clients. So then you think, well, 10% of traffic becomes calls. So how much traffic do we need to generate 20 calls? So if 10% of X amount of traffic generates 20 calls, then the math is 0.1x equals 20. X equals 20 divided by 0.1, which is 200. And you can do this in your head. This isn't too complicated because the numbers are nice and even like this. But essentially the end result here is 200 visitors generates 20 calls. Now, if your client could have handled 5 clients or 6 clients or whatever, the math isn't quite as round as it is like this. So it's helpful to know how to do these equations. But the end result for us is 200 visitors generates 20 calls. So how do we get 200 visitors? Well, we can do ads, we can do social media or social traffic, and we can do SEO. Like we were talking about in the beginning, we have 3 major sources of traffic. But the worst case scenario is going to be that all the traffic is going to come from ads. So we're paying or we're buying all of the traffic. And this is probably going to be what it's like in the beginning. And the average cost per click for home service ads in the United States is $6.50. So how much would it cost to get 200 visitors at that price? So if all of the traffic is coming from ads, and so I need 200 visitors, and it's going to cost me $6.50 per click, then that's $1,300 in ad spend. Now, if I only need to buy 80% of the traffic, because maybe later on, as things move on and I'm doing the social traffic and the SEO, maybe I'm getting some organic leads. And now maybe I only need to buy 80% of the traffic because 20% is coming in organically. Well, now I only need to get 160 clicks, and at $6.50 per click, that's only $1,040 in ad spend. So the ad spend is roughly going to be somewhere between $1,000 to $1,500 per month. And that equals out to about $30 to $50 of ad spend every day. And that's right on target with what we recommend with almost all of the local businesses that we've been working with, to have an ad spend somewhere in that range. So that's a pretty familiar number. So then how do we set the price? Well, I like to aim for a 3x return on investment for my clients. I'd like it to be even higher than that, but I'm kind of aiming for 3x. And so that means I have up to 33% of $10,000 per month, right? Because we looked at the 4 different projects, $2,500 in profit for each project. So my client could make $10,000 per month, and I'm shooting for a 3x ROI, so I can charge a third of that. So that gives me a budget of up to $3,300 to make $10,000. And that would be a 3x return on investment. So the way I figure out my price is I take the max budget, which is $3,300, subtract the ad spend, and that's my price. So we have $3,300 minus $1,500, and that's $1,800. So $1,500 is like the high end of where we thought the ad spend would be. So my price is somewhere in the $1,800 per month range. Now, in the real world, what I'm probably going to do is I'm probably going to charge a little less, give myself a little bit of extra wiggle room, and I'd probably charge like $1,250 to $1,500 per month, and that would give me an annual revenue of $15,000 to $18,000 in my bank. right? So not including the ad spend. Like after we take the ad spend and everything out, I'm putting $15,000 to $18,000 in my bank account every year working with a client like this. So there are a couple of extra things that are going on behind the scenes that I wanted to point out to make sure that this works for you. So in this example, the client has a relatively high ticket offer. We were looking at how the client only needs 4 closed deals per month and she's adding $10,000 of actual profit in her bank account. And so that means I don't have to drive as much traffic in order to get the number of sales that we need. But what if the client doesn't have a high ticket offer? Well, you're going to need to drive more traffic. But the good news is if the service is a lower price service like pest control or something like that, where you're only paying like $120 every 3 months, that's what we pay for pest control at our house, then the conversion rate is going to be a lot higher. So when we were looking at all those target conversion rates earlier, bump them up higher. So you need more traffic, but the conversion rate is higher. So all that is to say, it works both for high ticket and low ticket offers, as long as you're focusing on driving traffic, leads, and clients. Because lower prices have higher conversion rates. But here's a pro tip. If you're working with somebody who might not have enough revenue coming in to make this efficient for them, consider adding some new recurring revenue streams to your client to increase the average value per customer. So for example, if you were working with like an HVAC business, maybe you could consider introducing a VIP program that they could charge for on a monthly basis, where if anything goes wrong with your air conditioner, they'll come out and fix it. You get reduced rates. They also come out and do a spring maintenance and just some tune-up stuff, just some stuff to make sure that everything is running smoothly, both for the winter and the summer seasons and everything. And they charge like a monthly fee for that. And then that would allow you to introduce recurring revenue to what would normally be a non-recurring revenue style business. And that will get more value from the individual customers that your clients are getting, which means that you can pay more to acquire those clients, which means that you have more wiggle room in your rates as well. I'm going to put a link in the description to a value pricing calculator that I coded into a Google Sheet. So I can email you a link. You can copy the sheet into your Google Drive, and it kind of automates the process of figuring out how to do all this value pricing. So that's really fun. But I'm also going to send you some other stuff too. Like, have you seen the Lead Lab yet? I put together 8 different videos on how to find leads for free from basically any niche that you're looking for. So I'll throw that into the mix as well. But now that we have a sense of what the services are and how to do the pricing, how do you get businesses to want to buy a website these days? I mean, do you ever ask somebody, hey, you want to buy a website? And they're like, I don't even want the site I've already got. Why would I buy another one from you? Well, check this video out right here. This is how you get local businesses to want to buy websites today. I'll see you right there.